Let us make Adam in our tselem, man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heaven, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And God created Adam in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. So I've got to stop for a little bit. God said, let us make man in our image. So who's the us? I would suggest that if you put it back in its original cultural context, everybody would understand that God is talking to his heavenly council. In those days, it was understood that when all the gods got together, and there were probably only a couple of dozen gods, you got Marduk, and you got this guy, and you got that guy, and when they were trying to figure out, so should we have a war, famine, pestilence, what do you think? All the gods would go into a council, and they would dope stuff out, and they say, yes, we're going to have a war, that city's going to be destroyed, sucks to be them, but that's our decision. So gods were a part of this heavenly pantheon of gods in council. So because Yahweh is the only God that exists, there aren't any other gods. Yahweh's not going to hang out with Marduk and say, hey, it's my turn to do it. No. Only Yahweh exists. So Yahweh's council is that of the angels, the B'nai Elohim, the so-called sons of gods. They're the understanding that you could have a God without a council. It's like saying you could have a God, you could have a king without a throne. King has a throne. A king has an army. That's why you're talking about Yahweh Sebaoth, Yahweh of armies. A Saba is an army. Sebaoth is armies, because a king has got some armies. He's going to be a king. He's got a throne. He's got a palace. He's got a council, and so this was a part of the habitual, almost emotional, conceptual apparatus. When you thought of a god, he's part of a council. So that's when God says, let us make man, he's saying to the angels, essentially, I'm going to do it. But that's why it's significant that God did not say, let us make seas, let us make daylight, let us make that. No, because this is the importance of what he's about to do. He says, watch this, essentially. So that I suggest, if you wanted to, if you're looking for a proof text, you could say, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, it's the Trinity. Okay, well, I would suggest that there's if you must trample on ancient exegesis, and you could make a connection with enough time and imagination to say the concept of God's magnificence, which makes him unthinkable without a heavenly council. That sort of grandiloquence, that magnificence, that fullness of life, ultimately means that God is not a solitary individual, but God is three in one. God is the Trinity. I would suggest you can make the connection, but that would be a separate connection. If you're just doing exegesis and not theology, if you're going to ask the question, is there a Trinitarian significance? Sure, but if you're just doing exegesis, everybody in those days would have understood. They would have scratched their head and said, is God a Trinity? No, they would have understood the heavenly council. So that's going. So you'll note that the name for a man is the name Adam. We tend to think of Adam as a name, Adam and Eve. That's especially like that if you translate it into English. So you translate it into a verbal tag. Like Steve's not a name. Steve's just means Steve. Adam, I suppose, just means Adam, whatever. But Adam is an actual word. There's the word Ish, which means man. There's the word Enosh, which means kind of a weak man. There's a number of different Hebrew words for man. Adam is one of them. So, and it'll be important because the author, which we'll find out maybe next week. I was hoping to do all 3 chapters, but that ain't gonna happen. Plays with the name of the first created being. Adam is Adam, and it's interesting. His name is the wife's name is Chava, which means when you translate Chava, what's the English for that? Well, it sounds like Eve. Okay, so it's Eve. No, but it's a word for life. So the name of the first 2 couple is mankind and life. Your first clue, maybe, that you're not reading science. And so when the Greek translators translated the Hebrew into Greek, they changed the name. Her name, Adam named his wife Zoe, which means life. So the Greek says her name was Zoe, for she was the mother of all the zoonton. She was Zoe because she's the mother of all the living. How you translate it in English, I suppose you could translate it, I called her Livia because she's the mother of all the living, but I mean, whatever. But I mean, it doesn't work in English. But the point is, when you're reading it in the original, the names of the two couples was mankind and life. So, because she was the mother of all the living. So that's what's there. And he was in God's likeness, and he was told to rule over everything else. So what does it mean to be in God's likeness, or to be in God's image? Tselem is the Hebrew. A tselem was an image. Like if you made an image or a statue of Marduk, it would look like Marduk, and it was understood that this is how Marduk is present in the world. There was a little ritual that they would do called the opening of the mouth, and you would save stuff to make it, so that Marduk could actually use this statue, this image. But it was understood that this is doesn't represent Marduk who someplace else. It was understood in paganism that Marduk was present through his tselem, through his image. So what it's saying is not that Adam and Eve are made in the image of God. God has two eyes, God has got a nose, ears. No, it's saying that he is God's representative on earth. Right. Yahweh rules the world through Adam. That's why when you know that, it said, let us make let's make Adam in our tselem, in our later likeness, and let them rule over everything. Being in God's image is God's representative, God's co-regent. God rules through him. That's why the first thing that he said was, let them rule over the fish in the sea, over the birds of the sky, and the cattle of the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. God created Adam in his own image, and the image of God he created them, male and female. He created them. So Adam means mankind, or the plural, them. And you'll note that they come in male and female. You kind of got to say this today. How many genders are there? 2. Count them. Male, female. There you go. And the point, why 2? Because gender has to do here with sexuality and reproduction. If you're only going to have 2 individuals, that's not going to, thank you very much, 2 cannot rule the whole world. But a bunch of them can. So they need to procreate, they need to multiply, they need to fill the earth if they're going to subdue it and rule. In short, believe it or not, you need sex in order to fulfill the image of God, according to this thing. Now that doesn't mean you say, well, I'm a single person, I'm a celibate, am I not the image of God? That's not what it said. Don't read into it. But what it's trying to say is that to rule in God's image means that you have to multiply and subdue the earth, and you need sex for that. So you can later on we can talk about theology and what's the joys of virginity and the power of celibacy, and all that good stuff. Yeah. But that's later, So it means that if you're talking about male and female, you are talking about sexuality. You're not saying, I feel like a man, I feel like a woman, I identify as this. It's talking about something that's strictly biological. That's the foundation on which everything else is built. So that's why in verse 28, God blessed them. And again, we talked about blessing as kind of a fertility, vigor, fecundity, and God said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and rule, Wada, over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heaven, over every living thing that moves upon the earth. So if you're going, in order to rule, you have to multiply and subdue, and that's why that's the point of the blessing. God blesses them with fertility, so they can fulfill what it means to be male and female together. Again, this is the creation story. It doesn't mean that there's no place for singleness. That's not what it's saying. But it's saying that in terms of mankind's destiny to survive in the world depends upon sexuality. That's the only point that it wants to make. That's why you can't say sex is bad. Sex is God's idea. That's probably why he inspired the Song of Solomon to be in the biblical canon. So, verse 29. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of the earth, and every tree which which has fruit yielding seed, it shall be food for you. And to every beast of the earth, and every bird of the heaven, and to everything that moves on the earth, which has life, I have given the green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. So when it says it was very good, once again, the word is tov, and that means that everything was able to function the way that God wanted it to function. If something is not tov, it doesn't mean that it's ethically bad. It means that it's not functioning. A vacuum cleaner that doesn't suck up stuff is not tov. You know, vacuum cleaners are made to suck up stuff. If it had to do that, it's very nice, it's very pretty, but it's not tov. You know, a knife that can't cut it's very pretty. You can use it to God knows what, I don't know, clean your fingernails with or something. But it's not tov because knives are made to cut, and a dull knife is not tov because it can't cut. So when it says that the whole world was very tov, it means everything was functioning exactly as it was supposed to do. The day was functioning to give light so that people could work. The flowers and the plants were functioning to give food to man. Everything was going exactly as it was supposed to. So the story continues on.